Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Defiant Dawn, watching the swirling purple clouds of the Veil Nebula fill the main viewing screen. The massive research vessel carried 200 souls toward their new home in the Kepler 442 system. They had been traveling for 8 months, and the nebula marked the halfway point of their journey. "Sir, we're picking up some strange readings," said Communications Officer Sam Rivers from his station. His fingers danced across the control panel as he tried to make sense of the data flowing across his screens. Jake walked over to Sam's station and looked at the readings. The energy signatures were unlike anything in their databases. The patterns seemed almost organic, pulsing like a heartbeat through the cosmic dust and gas. "Could be natural phenomena," suggested Dr. Lisa Grant, the ship's chief medical officer. She had come to the bridge to check on the crew's health during their passage through the nebula. "These old nebulas can generate all sorts of electromagnetic activity." Engineer Tony Blake looked up from his console. "I don't think so, Doc. These readings are too organized, too purposeful. It's like something is moving out there." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. In his 20 years of space service, he had learned to trust his instincts. Right now, those instincts were screaming danger. "Sam, try to get a clearer reading. Tony, make sure all systems are ready for anything. Lisa, I want you to alert the medical bay. Something doesn't feel right about this." The bridge crew worked quietly, their movements efficient and practiced. The Defiant Dawn was not a military vessel, but Jake had insisted on maintaining military discipline during their journey. Now he was glad he had. Suddenly, the nebula around them began to change. The purple clouds swirled faster, forming what looked like a tunnel. At the far end of the tunnel, massive shapes began to emerge from the cosmic fog. "Captain," Sam's voice was tight with tension. "I'm reading 12 large objects approaching our position. They're big, sir. Much bigger than us." The first ship came into view, and Jake felt his blood turn cold. It was enormous, easily 10 times the size of the Defiant Dawn. Its hull was not made of metal like human ships, but seemed to be grown rather than built. The surface pulsed with veins of light, and strange protrusions jutted out at odd angles. "Are they trying to communicate?" Jake asked. Sam shook his head. "Nothing on any frequency, sir, but I'm picking up what sounds like chatter between their ships. It's in a language I've never heard before." More ships emerged from the nebula, each one different from the others, but all sharing the same organic, living appearance. They moved with purpose, surrounding the human vessel in a complex formation. Security Chief Amy Walsh burst onto the bridge, her hand resting on her weapon. "Captain, we've got movement on all sensors. Whatever they are, they've got us surrounded." Jake studied the alien formation on the tactical display. It was clearly a hunting pattern designed to prevent escape. These beings, whoever they were, had done this before. "Open all channels," he ordered. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Defiant Dawn. We are peaceful explorers seeking passage through this region. Please respond." The response came not in words, but in action. One of the smaller alien ships fired a beam of energy that struck the Defiant Dawn's port side. The ship shook violently, and sparks flew from several control panels. "Shields are down to 60%, Tony reported, his voice steady despite the crisis. "That was just a warning shot. They could have destroyed us if they wanted to." Another communication attempt brought the same result. This time, 3 ships fired simultaneously, and the Defiant Dawn's lights flickered as power systems struggled to compensate. "They're not interested in talking," Amy said grimly. "Captain, I recommend we prepare for combat." Jake knew their situation was hopeless. The Defiant Dawn was a research vessel with minimal weapons and no military training for most of the crew. Against 12 alien ships of unknown capability, they would last minutes at best. "No," he said. "We can't fight them, but maybe we can run." He activated the ship's intercom system. "All hands, this is the captain. We are under attack by unknown alien forces. All non-essential personnel report to emergency stations immediately. This is not a drill." Throughout the ship, families gathered their children and headed for the reinforced sections. Scientists abandoned their experiments and rushed to help wherever they could. The peaceful research mission had become a fight for survival in the span of minutes. The alien ships began moving closer, their living hulls pulsing with anticipation. Strange sounds echoed across the communication channels, sounds that reminded Jake of predators calling to each other before a hunt. "Tony, how much power can you give me?" Jake asked. "I can reroute everything to the engines, but it will leave us defenseless," the engineer replied. "Do it. Sam, plot a course for the asteroid field at the edge of this system. Amy, get every able body ready to fight if we don't make it." The Defiant Dawn's engines roared to life with more power than they had ever produced. The ship leaped forward, breaking through the alien formation like a desperate animal fleeing a pack of wolves. Behind them, the alien ships gave chase, their organic hulls rippling with what Jake could only describe as excitement. The hunt had begun, and humanity had just become the prey. As the Defiant Dawn raced toward the distant asteroid field, Jake realized that everything had changed. They were no longer explorers heading to a new world. They were refugees running, for their lives, hunted by beings who saw them as nothing more than sport. The real test of human survival was about to begin. The Defiant Dawn drifted silently between two massive asteroids, its engines powered down to avoid detection. 3 days had passed since their escape from the nebula, and the crew worked in shifts to keep noise to a minimum. Every sound could mean discovery and death. Captain Jake Morrison sat in his ready room, studying the data Sam Rivers had collected during their flight. The communications officer had been working around the clock to decode the alien transmissions, and what he had discovered was deeply troubling. "Captain," Sam said as he entered the room, dark circles under his eyes, "I've managed to translate some of their communications. You're not going to like what I found." Jake looked up from his reports. "Tell me." Sam activated a small recording device. Strange clicking sounds filled the room, followed by his translation. "The prey runs well, but lacks the challenge of the Keth hunters. Their ship moves clumsily through space like a wounded animal. The hunt master gives them 3 more cycles before we close the trap. They're talking about us like we're animals," Jake said, his jaw tightening. "It gets worse, sir. I've identified at least 12 different voices in their communications. Each one seems to command a different ship. They're calling this a sport hunt, and we're the entertainment." Dr. Lisa Grant entered the ready room, carrying a medical scanner and looking exhausted. "Captain, I've been studying the energy signatures from their weapons. The beam that hit us wasn't designed to kill. It was meant to disable and capture." Jake felt sick. "They want us alive." "From what I can tell, yes. The energy pattern is similar to tranquilizer weapons, but much more advanced. They could have destroyed us easily, but they chose not to." Sam nodded grimly. "The translations confirm it. They're hunters, Captain. We're their prey, and they want the chase to last as long as possible." A soft knock interrupted their conversation. Engineer Tony Blake entered, his uniform dirty from crawling through maintenance shafts. "Sorry to interrupt, but I thought you should know. I've been monitoring their scan patterns, and I think I understand how they're tracking us." He activated a portable display showing the asteroid field around them. "They're using some kind of biological sensor network. Each ship acts like a nose, sniffing for our heat and electrical signatures. But here's the interesting part. They're not sharing information efficiently. Each hunter seems to be working alone." "What does that mean for us?" Jake asked. "It means they're not coordinating like a military force. They're competing with each other. I think each hunter wants to be the one who captures us." Amy Walsh appeared in the doorway, her security uniform neat despite the chaos around them. "Captain, we need to talk about our civilian population. People are scared, and some are starting to panic. Dr. Grant's medical team is treating stress-related illnesses, and we've had 3 fights break out in the last day." Jake stood up, feeling the weight of 200 lives on his shoulders. "What do you suggest?" "We need to give them something to do. People handle fear better when they feel useful. I've been thinking about training some of them in basic defense, but I wanted your permission first." "Do it," Jake said without hesitation. "Train anyone who's willing. We don't know what's coming, but we need to be ready. Amy nodded and left to organize the training sessions. Jake turned back to his team of officers. Sam, I need you to keep working on their language. Any information about their technology, their weaknesses, anything that might help us. Tony, keep studying their ships. There has to be something we can use against them. Over the next several hours, the crew of the Defiant Dawn began to transform. In the cargo holds, Amy Walsh taught frightened colonists how to hold weapons and work as a team. Her voice echoed through the metal corridors as she explained basic combat tactics. Remember, we're not trying to be heroes, she told a group of 20 volunteers. We're trying to survive, stay together, watch each other's backs, and follow orders without question. Nina Cross, the ship's best pilot, worked with a small team to prepare the shuttlecraft for emergency use. Her hands moved quickly over the controls as she explained escape procedures to the other pilots. If the main ship is compromised, these shuttles are our lifeboats. Each one can carry 20 people, but only if we work together and stay calm. Meanwhile, in the ship's laboratory, Dr. Grant made a disturbing discovery. She had been analyzing the energy residue from the alien weapons, and what she found changed everything. Captain, she called over the intercom, I need you in the lab immediately. Jake arrived to find Lisa staring at a microscopic sample under her scanner. Her face was pale with shock. What is it, Lisa? I've been studying the energy that hit our ship. It's not just a weapon, Jake, it's alive. She showed him the readings on her screen. The energy patterns moved and shifted like living tissue, growing and adapting to their environment. Their ships, their weapons, maybe even their technology. It's all biological. They're not using machines like we do. They're using living creatures that have been bred or modified for specific purposes. Jake stared at the data, trying to understand the implications. That's why their ships looked so strange. They weren't built, they were grown. Exactly, and if their technology is biological, it means they think differently than we do. They're not engineers or scientists in the way we understand those terms. They're more like farmers or hunters who breed their tools. This revelation changed everything. The aliens weren't just technologically advanced. They were fundamentally different from humans in how they approached problems and solutions. Sam's voice came over the intercom, interrupting their discussion. Captain, we've got movement. 3. Alien ships are heading this way, but they're moving slowly like they're searching for something. Jake and Lisa rushed to the bridge, where they found the crew watching the tactical display with tense expressions. The alien ships moved through the asteroid field in a careful pattern, their organic hulls pulsing with sensor activity. They know we're here somewhere, Tony whispered. They're hunting us like bloodhounds following a scent. Jake watched the alien ships grow closer and realized that hiding was no longer enough. Soon they would have to fight or run again. But now they knew more about their enemies, and that knowledge might be the key to survival. The game was far from over, and the humans were starting to learn the rules. The alien ships found them just after midnight, ship time. Captain Jake Morrison was awakened by the emergency alarm and rushed to the bridge, still pulling on his uniform. The tactical display showed 4 alien vessels closing in on their position, from different directions. How did they find us? Jake demanded. Tony Blake looked up from his engineering console, sweat beading on his forehead. I think they've been following our heat trail. Even with engines powered down, our life support systems generate thermal signatures. Options? Jake asked tersely. We can run, but our engines will give away our position to every hunter in the system. Or we can stay and fight 4 ships with whatever weapons we have. Neither choice seemed good, but Jake had learned that sometimes bad choices were all you had. Prepare to run, but slowly. Make it look like we're trying to stay hidden. The Defiant Dawn's engines came online with barely a whisper of power. The ship began moving deeper into the asteroid field, weaving between the massive rocks like a mouse hiding from cats. Behind them, the alien hunters spread out in a search pattern. Their bioships pulsed with excitement, sensor organs extending from their hulls like tentacles tasting the void. In the ship's botanical lab, Carl Jung was making a discovery that would change everything. The botanist had been studying plant samples from Earth, trying to keep the colony's food supply healthy during the long journey. What he found made him call for Dr. Grant immediately. "Lisa, you need to see this," Carl said when she arrived. He pointed to a wilted tomato plant in one of his growing chambers. "This plant was healthy yesterday, but look at it now." The tomato plant was brown and dying, its leaves curled as if poisoned. But that wasn't what caught Lisa's attention. It was the faint energy signature coming from the soil around the plant's roots. "Carl, have you been exposing these plants to the alien energy residue from the weapon hit?" "Just small amounts for testing. I wanted to see if their energy would affect our food supply." Carl looked worried. "But Lisa, the energy isn't just killing the plants, it's changing them." Lisa ran her medical scanner over the dying tomato plant and saw something impossible. The plant's cellular structure was breaking down, but it was also producing a chemical compound that her scanner couldn't identify. "Carl, I need you to test this compound against the alien energy signature. Be careful. Wear full protection gear." While Carl worked in his lab, the chase continued through the asteroid field. The alien ships had found the Defiant Dawn's trail and were following it with growing excitement. Their communications, translated by Sam Rivers, revealed their anticipation. "The prey moves with cunning, but cannot escape the Huntmaster's nose. Soon we will taste their fear and add their essence to our collection." Jake felt sick hearing those words, but he forced himself to focus on survival. The asteroid field was getting denser, and the massive rocks were starting to interfere with both human and alien sensors. "Captain," called Nina Cross from the pilot station. "I've got an idea, but it's dangerous." "Talk to me." "There's a cluster of asteroids ahead, all connected by metal ore veins. If we can get the aliens to follow us in there, the metal might interfere with their biological sensors." Jake studied the tactical display. The asteroid cluster looked like a three-dimensional maze of spinning rocks and metal. It would be difficult to navigate, but it might give them an advantage. "Do it." The Defiant Dawn dove into the asteroid cluster, its hull scraping against floating debris. Behind them, 3 of the 4 alien ships followed eagerly, while the 4th hung back as if sensing a trap. Inside the maze of rocks and metal, something strange happened. The alien ships began moving erratically, their sensor organs retracting, as if in pain. The metal ore in the asteroids was generating electromagnetic fields that interfered with their biological systems. "Tony, are you seeing this?" Jake asked. "Yes, sir. Their ships are having trouble in here. It's like the metal is jamming their senses somehow." This was the break they needed. Jake ordered the ship to stop engines and drift among the asteroids like another piece of debris. Around them, the 3 alien hunters moved in confusion, unable to locate their prey. But the 4th ship, the one that had stayed outside the cluster, was different. It was larger than the others, and its hull was covered in thick, armor-like plates. This was clearly the leader, the Huntmaster that the others had mentioned in their communications. The Huntmaster began sending signals to its confused companions, guiding them back out of the electromagnetic maze. As they emerged, Jake could see that their sensor organs were damaged, some of them bleeding a thick, dark fluid. "They're hurt," Amy Walsh observed from her security station. "Whatever those metal fields did to them, it caused real damage." "Carl," Young's voice came over the intercom, excitement clear in his tone. "Captain, you need to get down to the botanical lab immediately. I found something incredible." Jake left Nina in command and rushed to Carl's lab, where he found the botanist standing next to a sealed container holding a small sample of plant material. "Jake, this compound that the dying tomato plant produced, it's toxic to the alien energy signature. When I exposed alien energy to this compound, the energy literally died." "What does that mean?" Dr. Grant, who had been monitoring the experiment, stepped forward. "It means we might have found a weapon, Jake. If their ships and technology are biological and this compound can kill their energy, then we might be able to hurt them." Jake stared at the small sample, hardly daring to hope. "How much of this compound can you produce?" "That's the problem," Carl said. "To make enough to be useful, we'd need to expose a lot of plants to alien energy, and that energy is what we need to kill. It's like trying to make poison out of the very thing that's trying to kill you." "But we have Kate Stone," Amy Walsh said, having arrived to hear the conversation. "She's our mining specialist. If anyone can figure out how to weaponize this, it's her." Jake nodded. Get Kate down here immediately. And Amy, I want you to select a small team for a special mission. We're going to need to get closer to one of those alien ships to get more of their energy. As the team gathered in the botanical lab, the fourth alien ship, the Huntmaster, began moving toward the asteroid cluster. Its damaged companions flanked it, their sensor organs slowly regenerating. The aliens thought they were still the hunters, but they were about to learn that their prey had developed teeth. The humans were no longer just running and hiding. They were preparing to bite back. Outside the ship, the asteroid field drifted in space, its metal ore veins glowing with electromagnetic energy. Among the rocks, human ingenuity was about to turn the tables on an ancient predator race. The real hunt was about to begin. Kate Stone crouched behind a control panel in the Defiant Dawn's cargo bay, her hands steady as she connected wires to a mining charge. Around her, 20 volunteers worked quietly, turning peaceful colony equipment into weapons of war. Remember, she whispered to the group, these charges were meant to break apart asteroids for mining. Now we're going to use them to break apart alien ships. Captain Jake Morrison watched from the doorway, impressed by how quickly his people had adapted. 3 weeks ago, these had been farmers, teachers, and scientists heading to a new world. Now they were fighters preparing for a battle that would decide whether humanity lived or died. The plan was simple, but dangerous. They would use one of the smaller shuttles as bait, luring a single alien ship close enough to board. Once inside, they would plant Kate's modified mining charges and try to capture one of the aliens alive. Dr. Ben Miller, the ship's psychologist, had spent days studying the alien communications that Sam Rivers had translated. What he discovered gave them hope. "Captain," Ben said, approaching Jake with a data pad full of notes. "I think I understand how these aliens think. They're not just hunters, they're competitors. Each ship is trying to prove it's the best hunter in the group. How does that help us? If we can make one ship think it has found us alone, away from the others, it might break formation to claim the prize for itself. Their competitive nature could be our advantage." Jake nodded. "That fits with what we've seen. They don't coordinate. Well, because they're all trying to be the winner." Amy Walsh finished checking her weapon and looked at the strike team she had assembled. Besides herself, the team included Tony Blake for his technical skills, Carl Young because they needed someone who understood the plant toxin, and 6 volunteers who had shown the most promise in combat training. "Everyone knows the plan," Amy said. "We get on that alien ship, plant the charges, grab a prisoner if possible, and get out before the ship explodes. Simple." One of the volunteers, a young man named Pete Harris, who had been a teacher before the journey, raised his hand. "What if there are more aliens on the ship than we expect?" "Then we adapt," Amy replied. "That's what humans do better than anyone else in the galaxy, apparently." Nina Cross sat in the pilot seat of Shuttlecraft Alpha, running through her pre-flight checks. The small ship had been modified with Kate's electromagnetic pulse devices, powered by the same metal ore that had confused the alien sensors in the asteroid field. "Shuttle Alpha to bridge," she reported. "All systems ready. The EMP devices are charged and the fake distress beacon is online." Jake's voice came back over the radio. "Remember, Nina, you don't have to outrun them. You just have to make them think they've caught you." "Understood, Captain. Beginning approach to target coordinates." The shuttle launched from the Defiant Dawn and began moving toward the edge of the asteroid field, broadcasting a weak distress signal that made it sound like a damaged escape pod. The signal was designed to attract the aliens while making the shuttle seem helpless. It worked perfectly. The smallest of the alien bioships, eager to claim an easy prize, broke away from the main group and moved toward the shuttle. Its sensor, organs extended hungrily as it approached what it thought was wounded prey. "Contact," Nina reported, her voice steady despite the danger. "One alien ship approaching. It's moving fast and looks excited." On the Defiant Dawn's bridge, Jake watched the tactical display as their plan unfolded. The alien ship was closing in on the shuttle, while the other alien ships remained focused on searching the asteroid field. "Amy, you're go for boarding," Jake announced. The strike team moved to their positions. They would use the shuttle's docking tube to attach to the alien ship's hull, then cut their way inside using modified mining tools. The alien ship caught the shuttle with a beam of energy, pulling it close to its organic hull. Strange, tube-like appendages extended from the bioship, preparing to drain the shuttle's systems and capture any survivors. "Now," Amy commanded. The strike team activated their gear and moved through the docking tube. Kate Stone's cutting tools sliced through the alien hull like it was soft meat, revealing a corridor filled with pulsing walls and strange glowing fluids. The inside of the alien ship was like being inside a living creature. The walls breathed. The floor felt soft underfoot, and everything was lit by a dim, organic glow that seemed to come from the ship itself. "Stay together," Amy whispered. "Watch for movement and remember, these things see us as prey." They moved through the ship's corridors, following Tony Blake's scanner toward what appeared to be the control center. The air was thick and humid, smelling like a combination of seawater and something else they couldn't identify. They found the alien in what must have been the ship's bridge. It was tall, about 8 feet, with 4 arms and skin that looked like dark leather. Its head was elongated with large eyes that reflected light like a cat's. When it saw the humans, it made a sound like clicking mixed with hissing. The alien reached for what looked like a weapon, but Pete Harris was faster. The former teacher fired his modified mining laser, and the alien collapsed to the floor, unconscious but breathing. "Target secured," Amy reported. "Tony, plant the charges. Carl, get a sample of whatever that thing bleeds. We need to understand their biology." Tony Blake worked quickly, placing Kate's modified mining charges throughout the ship's vital areas. The charges were set to detonate in 10 minutes, giving them time to escape with their prisoner. But as they prepared to leave, the ship's walls began to change color, shifting from the dim organic glow to a bright, angry red. Somewhere in the ship's living system, alarms were sounding. "The ship knows we're here," Carl said, looking at the changing walls. "It's trying to alert the other hunters." "Move now," Amy ordered. The strike team carried their unconscious prisoner through the corridors as the ship's biological systems tried to stop them. Walls began to close, trying to trap them inside, and strange fluids started pouring from the ceiling. They reached the docking tube just as the other alien ships began responding to the distress signals. Nina Cross had the shuttle engines running, ready for immediate departure. "Everyone in," she called. "We've got company coming fast." The strike team threw themselves into the shuttle as Kate Stone's charges detonated behind them. The alien bioship convulsed like a wounded animal, its hull cracking open and spilling its glowing fluids into space. But they had done more than destroy one ship. They had captured one of the hunters alive, and they had proven that humans could fight back. As the shuttle raced back to the Defiant Dawn with 3 other alien ships in pursuit, Jake Morrison smiled for the first time in weeks. The hunters had just learned that their prey had claws. The captured alien hunter sat in the Defiant Dawn's cargo bay, secured by metal restraints that Kate Stone had welded together from mining equipment. Its large eyes watched the humans with what Dr. Ben Miller could only describe as confusion and growing fear. "It keeps making the same sounds," Ben told Captain Jake Morrison as they observed their prisoner through the reinforced viewing window. "I think it's trying to call for help, but our metal shielding is blocking its biological communication system." Jake studied the alien creature. Up close, it was less frightening than he had expected. Without its bioship and weapons, it looked almost vulnerable. "What has it told us?" "That's the interesting part," Ben replied, consulting his notes. "Through Sam's translation work, we've learned that this hunter's name is Kethfor, and it's relatively young by their standards. More importantly, it's starting to understand that we're not just animals." The alien, Kethfor, had been watching the humans work together, watching them show concern for their injured, watching them solve problems through cooperation rather than domination. For a species that believed only in the strong ruling the weak, this was deeply disturbing. "Captain," Dr. Lisa Grant called over the intercom, "you need to see what Carl and I have discovered in the medical bay." Jake made his way to the medical section, where he found Carl Young and Lisa standing over samples of the alien's blood and tissue. Their faces showed excitement mixed with concern. "Jake, we've been studying Kethvor's biology," Lisa explained. "Their entire species is built around predation. Their blood carries toxins that would kill most other life forms. Their muscles are designed for hunting and killing. Even their brains show structures that suggest they think primarily about dominance and conquest. Carl nodded, pointing to a cellular sample under the microscope. But here's what's really interesting. When we exposed their tissue to our plant toxin, it didn't just die. It changed. The cells actually began to break down their own toxin production. What does that mean? It means we can neutralize them, Lisa said. Not just kill them, but actually change their biology. We can make them harmless. Jake felt a chill. The power to change another species at the cellular level was frightening, even when used for defense. Meanwhile, Holly Reed had been working with the captured alien technology from the destroyed ship. The technician had discovered something that changed everything about their situation. "Captain," Holly called from her workstation, "I've been analyzing the alien ship's communication logs. We're not dealing with a small hunting party. There are hundreds of these bioships spread across this sector of space, and they're all connected through some kind of biological network." Jake rushed to Holly's station where she showed him the data she had decoded from the alien ship's living computer system. "The good news is that our attack has confused them," Holly continued. "They can't understand how prey could destroy a hunter. But the bad news is that they're calling for reinforcements. How long do we have? Based on their communication patterns, I estimate 3 days before a much larger hunting fleet arrives. We're talking about 50 or more ships, Jake." The situation had suddenly become much more desperate. Jake called an emergency meeting with all department heads and the strike team leaders. In the conference room, the reality of their situation settled over the group like a heavy blanket. They had won one battle, but the war was far from over. "We have 3 options," Jake announced. "We can run and hope they don't follow us to our new colony. We can hide and hope they eventually lose interest. Or we can fight." Amy Walsh spoke. "First, running means leading them to innocent colonists. Hiding means living in fear forever. I vote we fight." Tony Blake looked up from his engineering reports. "Captain, I've been studying the data from the destroyed alien ship. Their biotechnology has weaknesses we can exploit. If we can get close to their main fleet, I think we can do serious damage." Pete Harris, who had proven himself during the Xiao boarding mission, raised his hand. "What about our prisoner? Can we use it somehow?" Dr. Ben Miller nodded. "Actually, yes. Keth Vor has been asking questions about us. It wants to understand why we fight for each other instead of just for ourselves. I think we're changing how it sees the universe." Jake made his decision. "We fight, but we do it smart. Holly, I want you to use the alien communication network against them. Can you send false information through their system?" "I think so. Their biocomputers are like living creatures, and I'm learning how to talk to them. Tony, work with Kate to weaponize everything we have. Turn our mining equipment, our tools, even our life support systems into weapons if necessary. Carl and Lisa, I want you to mass produce that plant toxin. If we're going to face 50 ships, we need every advantage." Over the next 2 days, the Defiant Dawn transformed into something that barely resembled a research vessel. Mining charges became bombs. Communication arrays became jammers. Even the ship's water recycling system was modified to produce the plant toxin in larger quantities. The alien prisoner, Keth Vor, watched these preparations with growing amazement. It had never seen a species work together so efficiently for mutual survival, rather than individual gain. On the 3rd day, Holly's sensors detected the incoming alien fleet. 53 bioships, each larger and more dangerous than the ones they had already faced. "Captain," Holly reported, "I've managed to send false signals through their network. Half the fleet thinks we're hiding in the nebula where we first met them. The other half thinks we're trying to escape toward the outer system. And where do they think we really are?" Holly smiled. "Dead. I convinced their biocomputers that we died when our ship exploded." The alien fleet split up, just as Holly had planned. 26 ships headed for the nebula. 27 ships chased the false escape signal, and their prisoner ship, the command vessel, moved alone toward what it thought was empty space. But the space wasn't empty. The Defiant Dawn waited in the shadow of a large asteroid, every weapon they had created aimed at the approaching command ship. "This is for every species you've hunted," Jake said quietly as he gave the order to fire. The battle was swift and decisive. The alien command ship, expecting no resistance, was caught completely off guard. Kate Stone's mining charges, loaded with Carl Jung's plant toxin, tore through its living hull like fire through paper. As the command ship died, its biological network sent out a death scream that reached every hunter in the fleet. For the first time in their species' history, the hunters felt something they had never experienced before: fear. The remaining alien ships fled the system, their confidence shattered. The prey had become predators, and the galaxy would never be the same. In the cargo bay, Kethvor looked at its human captors with something that might have been respect. The hunters had become the hunted, and perhaps that was how it should be. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Defiant Dawn, watching the alien fleet disappear into the distance. They had won, but more importantly, they had shown the galaxy that humanity would not go quietly into the dark. The age of human prey was over. The age of human survival had begun.